Well, hello everybody. Today I am going to be reviewing the Batman the Damned comics by DC Black Label. And I admit today this review may contain a few spoilers. Usually I try not to include too many spoilers, but for this one I'm going to make an exception. Alright, so let's get started. Um, what makes Batman the Damned different is it starts off with the Joker being dead, and although the Joker has died in various incarnations of the story, it's the ending that really makes this story unique. So, as I said, the story starts off with the Joker dead, and Batman wakes up in this alley, and he's been shot or stabbed. I don't recall, but he's pretty beat up, and he doesn't quite recall what happened. He doesn't remember if he's the one that killed the Joker or if somebody else got the drop on him. And this story is kind of like a sequel to the standalone one-shot trade paperback Joker by the same author, by Brian Azzarello. I apologize, it's pretty dark, but perhaps you can make out his name up there. And that's the main issue, or the main premise of this story. And it continues on for 3 issues, and Batman has to team up with other supernatural characters in the DC universe, such as Constantine, Zatanna, Swamp Thing. So, moving on, I'll show you some of the covers of the other issues in this series, and also talk about what's unique um, about issue number 1 and why it's so infamous. Some of you probably already know. Alright, so this was the Jim Lee cover for issue number 2. It's pretty nice. Hopefully you can get a good look at it there. I know it's dark. And then number 3 was also by, I believe, uh, Lee Bermejo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right. And that's the 3rd issue. It's supposed to be the Joker, but it looks like a skull as well on the cover. Alright. And what I want to talk about in terms of issue number 1 being infamous is that, well, originally in the 90s, let me just rewind for a second. In the 90s, DC introduced something called the Vertigo line, which it was still part of DC, but they were in stories that had the Vertigo logo on it. They were a lot more mature and dark. So that you could do things in those comics that you couldn't do in regular comic books published by DC because of the comics code, the authority. And now, in 2018, when they introduced DC Black Label, it's kind of like the contemporary version of Vertigo. DC Black Label stories are more mature, they're dark, and they typically include more violence, more violent undertones, and also the artwork can be a little bit more risque. And when it comes to Batman the Damned, one of the things that made it so infamous was that it featured a drawing of Bruce Wayne in his birthday suit, and it was not censored. And I guess some fans got upset about it, so they discontinued that print of it. And then later they issued a reprint that was censored, and the copy I have is uncensored. So the uncensored version of Batman the Damned #1, those go for quite a chunk of change. So if you happen to have one, it's going to be worth some money. Nevertheless, these were good stories. I really enjoyed them. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably give them probably a 6 or 7. The artwork was really good. For the artwork, I'd probably give it an 8. It was really realistic. Um, in terms of the plot, the only thing that really stood out to me that I thought was interesting on the Batman mythos was that It turns out in this storyline that Batman's parents, Thomas and Martha Wayne, they were in the process of getting a divorce before they died, and Batman apparently had befriended this witch that was in the physical form of a little girl, and Bruce got shot in the alley the night that his parents got killed. And the witch, basically, she put this, I guess, a curse on Batman, and essentially he died the night that his parents did as well. And ever since then, all of his training and all of his adventures in Gotham has been basically his own form of purgatory, or not necessarily hell. We'll call it purgatory for now. But this has all been Batman's afterlife. And it's called Batman Damned because it turns out that Batman let the Joker die. They were, if you look at the end of the standalone Joker story, they're fighting on the edge of a bridge, and the Joker's about to fall. And when this story picks up, you find out that Batman, he could have saved the Joker, but he let him die, and that's why he's been damned, because he violated his code. So now he's been I suppose he's condemned to the to hell, or the inferno, for violating his code of justice in his own purgatory. And that was interesting. But beyond that, I didn't think there was anything that really stood out for the story. Um, I don't think it's quite the end, because at the very end, it turns out that maybe the Joker wasn't dead, and he gets up from the Gotham River where his body was found in the beginning. And Joker was the first installment. Batman Damned is the second, so it's possible there might be a third installment by Brian Azzarello later in the future. So we'll look forward to that. Um, I think that's all I have to say about this storyline. If you haven't read it, I know I've spoiled it, but then again, there's some things I left out, so there's still some new things to experience. Go check out the story if it interests you and you're a big Batman fan. It's an interesting book to have to your collection. Well, thank you, and please continue to watch more of my videos if you like these reviews, and if you have any suggestions, um, leave them in the comments so I can get back to those. Thank you, and have a good day, fans.